welcome back to Trailer Trash Talk, Episode 6. Today is May 6th, 2020. I'm your host, Lil Stank. With me, as always, is
Leather Hat Guy.
there's a lot going on. We've got murder hornets, got a black hole about to eat our galaxy alive, if I'm understanding correctly. Got a guy that's about to solve the COVID issue that's getting fucking murdered all of a sudden.
Saw that.
But, we're trying to stay positive here, in spite of it.
I am positive I would rather the black hole get me than the murder hornets.
So let's just jump right in. We're gonna, again, get the negative shit out the way first. The COVID now has taken 73,591 people. That's the official count we're being given, but now being told maybe that's fake news. I'm not sure. I haven't sifted through the records personally. I'm not sure what criteria are being used. The last I heard, I think, was Dr. Deborah Birx at one of the press conferences said that anybody that had tested positive, if they died, they were going to just assume it was COVID. So that's from what I understand, the criteria we've been using since the beginning. Apparently now we're wondering if that is an accurate count, however. What do you think?
I mean, of course that count's not accurate, but when you look at the lack of testing in general, when you look at the amount of, that's just deaths, but the lack of testing in general, and how many people do you think, if some guy got COVID and was sick on the way to the hospital and got into a wreck and died, he's not getting a COVID test?
Well, and that's, the people that we're hearing say these may not be correct, or at least right now they're arguing that it could be far lower. But then you see other medical experts and other articles being quoted as saying the actual number could be higher because of exactly what you're saying. People who maybe died at home or died before they were tested, before maybe it was conclusive that they should have been tested.
Or I'll even kind of play the other side on that one. As far as the numbers they're putting out, I'll accept that the people who say that we're highballing the death count could be right, because if you're just automatically a COVID death because you have COVID antibodies, but you had a heart attack, that I don't like that. That being said, they're highballing the deaths. They are lowballing the total number of cases, because like I just said, how can you give a definitive number of cases for people who just got a slight cough and didn't get tested, or people who got really sick and still didn't get tested? I just feel like while it might not be as severe in a lot of cases, it's also way more common than we think.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt it's way more common than what we have any numbers for. I'm just curious about the deaths, because I guess I could see both sides of the argument. Although I'd be more prone to believe the actual number could be a little bit higher, just because we don't know exactly when this shit popped up over here.
Right, how many people, that's a good point, how many people died of breathing complications or heart whatever, any of these things that we're told that COVID is supposed to cause complications with, that they didn't know to check early on, or didn't bother to check?
Yep. Some vicious shit out there. Let's make sure we're all wearing our masks.
Speaking of wearing our masks, bear with me, I know this isn't proper medical attire, but it'll do for this demonstration. Proper mask wear. Mouth and nose. whole face. Everybody out there walking around like this, or this, you're not doing it right.
It makes it easier to breathe, though. It's not all hot.
You're wearing the mask wrong.
I saw a picture yesterday. This woman put on a mask and then cut a fucking hole in the middle of it.
Yeah, I saw that. I reiterate, you people are missing the point. Moving on.
What were you telling me earlier about the task force not being allowed to...
Oh, yeah. The government task force on COVID, Fauci and all his people. I don't understand how this is being done. I don't know that much about how the government actually works. But from what I've read, they have been forbidden by someone somewhere in the government from talking to the House, which, as we know, is populated by Democrats. They only have permission to speak to the Senate. That, I'm not going to say anything either way, but that does smell kind of odd to me over here. Don't quite understand how that works. Isn't that...
How does it smell odd to you? What conclusions are you drawing from that?
I'm not drawing any conclusions. I'm just saying it seems weird to me that you're allowed to talk to one half of Congress but not the other.
What do you think is the reasoning behind that?
I personally, I'll say it, I'm pretty sure that someone in the administration is terrified of what they will tell the Democrats in the House and what they will use with that information. Whether or not it's a good thing what they do with it, it won't look good for anybody currently trying to run things.
So what are you trying to say here? Are you saying that, are you inferring something like the situation is much more dire than what we're being led to believe, and potentially someone in the administration is purposefully misleading us with information or facts for some other gains? Is that what you're inferring? Just go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it. The president's trying to kill everybody. That's what he's saying. He's trying to make us enemies, and I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it.
The president's not trying to kill all of us. Just poor people.
This is how you get shit started, where we have issues going forward because you're alienated. Michael Jordan said Republicans buy sneakers too. He was smart enough to know this shit. The Trailer Trash Talk podcast does not endorse the views towards any politician, neither negatively or positively.
Stank, would you care to tell us why you don't? What do you believe the perfectly reasonable, rational reason for forbidding these people from talking to half of Congress is?
I'll give you one. The Senate has 100 people in it. House of Representatives, you got 435 motherfuckers in there. That's a lot more potential COVID floating around in the air than when you got 100 people. I get it's much more difficult to socially distance when you got upwards of 400 people in a room together. Maybe that's why. Maybe instead of your views that there's some sinister plot being hatched in the administration, maybe it's the fact that our president is trying to protect the most critical people in this time of need, which would be people like Dr. Anthony Fauci, who, by the way, is 80 years old. I don't know if everyone realizes that. That motherfucker is 80 years old. He looks like he's 60 at the oldest. He's like 8 years older than Trump, and he looks far better shape. I mean, it's...
You could be right. The president may have our interests at heart. I mean, I think he told Pence to put his mask on.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that is the perfectly reasonable explanation as to why they're not being allowed to go talk to the House of Representatives.
So why can't they video chat them?
Don't you think we have more important things to do? There's a fucking pandemic rolling through our country right now. We're at 73,591 deaths. Maybe.
And shouldn't the people in charge of this crisis be talking to everyone in the government that they need to?
Shouldn't the people in charge of this crisis be pouring shit into fucking beakers and shit like that? Like,
I mean, you'd think so, but I don't know how politics... I guess I don't know how science works anymore.
I don't think you ever knew how science works.
I knew how science works, I still don't know how math works.
Speaking of not knowing how science works, a story also came across that we had a federal court had to ban the Bradenton Church from selling bleach as a cure for COVID. I don't know. I'm about to find out where Bradenton is. I don't know what kind of ignorant some bitches we have in this town. What you doing down there? I'm pretty sure we're not at any risk from being suddenly demonetized from that shit. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Alright. I'm gonna take a little bit of
antidote
for stupid.
I don't know what the rules on any of that shit is, but I'm pretty sure you have to. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're not.
Don't smoke, kids.
That's
Be
right.
better than us.
So, wow. Apparently, I was thinking this was because of the statement from the Rose Garden a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, this has been going on. This is an organization that peddles drinking industrial-grade bleach as a cure for 95% of the world's known illnesses, including HIV, autism, Alzheimer's, leukemia, and most recently, COVID-19.
We had one of these people at my work one time. I distinctly remember this fascinating views this man held on medicine. I believe these are the people distributing this are the ones who tell you, don't tell your doctor about it because they'll try and stop you. Because it's poison. The doctor is not trying to perpetuate some long-standing medical drug scam. My opinions on the medical field aside, your doctor is absolutely right to tell you don't drink bleach.
So they're marketing this shit for you to drink, and giving advice on dosages for adults and also for small children under 50 pounds to cure the coronavirus. Warned they could have side effects including stomach pain and diarrhea.
Yeah, industrial chemicals usually result in stomach pain and diarrhea, if not more severe things like, death.
Holy shit. Well, this is in... oh, shit. This is in the Miami Herald, so it looks like we're talking about Florida. Oh, that makes sense. That all makes sense now. All right. So, we also had the story of a researcher close to a virus breakthrough, allegedly, that was killed in a murder-suicide. Did you see this story?
I saw the headline, not the story.
We apparently don't know what the fuck happened. Dude was found dead in his house, shot multiple times in the head, neck, back. And then another guy was found in the car outside with a self-inflicted gunshot wound that had killed him.
Oh man, this is a mob hit. Like, dude in the car whacked the scientist, partner whacked him to cover up the tracks. That's totally how this went down.
Is that the case, or let me play the devil's advocate here? Is it possible? I don't want to name.
Is it possible that the government did it? Absolutely. Government's the
Ah!
biggest mob of all of them.
Let me finish my thought. I'm going somewhere with this. Let's pretend that maybe, and again, these views are not endorsed. This is speculation, purely hypothetical. Let's pretend that maybe there was a country in the Far East somewhere that was responsible for the outbreak of this virus to begin with. Let's pretend that maybe they intended for this to get let loose and they didn't want there to be a cure. Now let's pretend that maybe the guy that got killed, the scientist, looked like he could have been from said country if this was indeed what happened. We don't know. They didn't give any information about the gunman. I would be interested to know if the gunman looks like the scientist looks like. Don't know how to say this without sounding like an asshole.
Like he may share the same ethnogenetic heritage or culture as the victim.
I would be curious to know, yes. And again, I'd be if that were the case, perhaps the country which both or one and one's ancestors hail from sent the second one to take out the scientist guy, bam, and then offed himself in the car. Because those, the hypothetical country we're talking about,
they do have a history of suicide fighters. Oh wait, excuse me, sorry. Wrong Asian country there.
Oh. Well, shit, who said anything about Asian? Let's leave that shit out of it. Disregard that.
You said Asian.
When did I say Asian?
When we said the scientist from a certain, say, Southeast Asian country.
I thought I said a country in the Far East.
That's Asian.
There's other shit in the East.
Please let us know in the comments section what countries come to mind when you hear the Far East.
Well, that makes you the asshole. That makes you... I can't help what you're assuming.
Tell me a non-Asian country in the Far East.
We have other news to get to here, such as other wild theories.
And possibly sports news.
The other assumption I had was maybe the man that offed himself in the car was the man in the house, his ex-lover. Maybe they were disgruntled former lovers.
Could be.
That's my two theories. I didn't even consider yours, though. Maybe there was a third guy involved, Let's just say maybe it was somebody named Mr. Chin.
Right.
And
those guys on the grassy knoll didn't make it too far after that either.
Be interesting to see what, if anything, comes out of that. But his colleagues at the science place did say they were going to take over his work and try and finish it up in his honor.
I don't know if that's a red flag for me or a good sign. How trustworthy is this man's colleagues?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know too many scientists, so kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
You brought this up earlier. The Michigan governor wants to ban guns at the Capitol after the armed protesters stormed the Capitol.
Perfect case of people being their own worst enemies. Like we talked about here at Trailer Trash Talk, we are very, very much pro Second Amendment in general, guns, big fans. I personally cannot fault the Michigan governor for maybe wanting to ban guns from the Capitol after angry people waving them burst into his office to complain. That would probably upset me too at my job.
I thought the Michigan governor was a woman.
I'm not from Michigan.
I thought it was like a woman named Whitmer or some shit.
It's Whitmore. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. Doesn't really matter. We don't gender discriminate.
That's right.
If anybody wants to let us know, cool, we'll get it right next time.
Only other noteworthy COVID news I saw today was, and this is COVID news in the stupidest fucking way imaginable. That nearly 80 5G towers have been burned to the ground in the UK. Now, are you familiar with how this whole 5G COVID theory started in the first place?
I'm not. I am familiar that 5G is the latest in the new technologies for people to be convinced is somehow going to poison and kill us after Wi-Fi, then cell phone signals, and before that, power line, or nuclear power plants, and before that, electricity. Every time there's something new, people are convinced it will kill us all. It probably will, but it hasn't yet, and I really don't think the goddamn cell towers are gonna do it.
So, from what I understand, the entire theory started from a college paper from, I think, some Washington-based college, where a group of kids said Wuhan was the first 5G city in China. Wuhan is also, from what we know, the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, I'm sorry. Therefore, could they be related? The entire thing was a bullshit question. Like, it's the most, basically, to me, that's like saying, because the thing they're not really mentioning here is that there is the virology lab in Wuhan. So to me, that's like you have a city that has a booming whorehouse, just a brothel that everybody's going to. Alright? And then let's say they have a guy that comes in with a fucking chicken farm. All of a sudden, people around town are getting herpes like crazy. Everybody's fucking getting herpes. And then you've got some nut job that says, well, people weren't getting herpes before he opened up the chicken farm. Is the chicken farm responsible for the herpes? No, it's probably basically the same as Wuhan, the virus producing facility you have in the whorehouse. You know,
and that's an amazing case of what in science they refer to as correlation is not causation.
I mean, and like I said, the entire thing, there was no even statement that linked the two. It was a question. It's...
The answer is no. I am a college dropout, and I know the answer to this question. Jesus Christ, these kids need their money back.
It was pretty astounding. Also saw a story that we're showing researchers have found there could be a link between herpes and Alzheimer's, since I used herpes in that last comparison there. That it's interesting. I was never told about that possibility when we went through sex ed.
Right. Man, that's
Says,
crazy.
a small 3D version of the human brain develops key features of Alzheimer's disease when it is infected with a virus that causes cold sores, scientists reported on Wednesday. Huh. Well, thankfully, up to this point, I'm still en route to be Alzheimer's free.
You heard it here, folks. Cold sores are an early warning sign of Alzheimer's.
That's right. That's two reasons to stay away. Alright, I think we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we will have murder hornets, which is something I've been eager to learn about from our nature guy over here. And I believe you also have something to tell us about malaria microbes, whatever the shit that means. But and then we're also gonna have Trailer Trash Talk present Sports Talk. So y'all stay tuned. We'll be check us out. This sounds cool. We'll be right back. That's gonna sound really cool whenever you listen to it all. Welcome back. Alright, now before we went to break, we promised some updates on murder hornets. Now I've heard a few things about these, and I don't really know anything about them. So we're going to have a little bit of a quick nature and outdoors talk here with Leather Hat Guy. What can you tell us, a quick overview of these murder hornets? Where are they from?
All right, so the murder hornet, as it's popularly becoming known around here, is commonly referred to as the Asian giant hornet. As the name implies, it originated or comes from Asia. Its range runs across eastern and southern Asia, parts of mainland Southeast Asia, and the Russian Far East. I think that's Mongolia. And as of 2019, the northwestern United States. These things are huge. They're average about 2 inches long, which I was just thinking about this earlier. If you want a size comparison, your common garden variety wasp, which you and me have lived in terror of around here for years, well, that's smaller than my pinky. These Asian giant hornets, they're a little bigger than my thumb. So I would say that's probably about 3 times the size of a regular hornet.
Yeah,
which makes me exponentially more terrified of it. And the stingers, I don't know how big the stinger on your garden variety wasp or bee is, but the stingers on these guys is a 1/4 inch long. I think your protective gear for this is like fucking plate armor.
Wow. So, the name murder hornet, is that a playful term, or can these some bitches actually kill us?
I wouldn't call it a playful term. I might call it a over dramatic term. I mean, these things are terrifying, but as far as I know, you need to be they probably hurt more, but you have to be scared of them the way you're scared of killer bees.
So you're saying if there's a swarm of them, you need to be scared.
Yeah. If there's one, you should still be scared, but only fear of severe injury, not death. If there's a pack of them, pray to God.
So let me ask you, we're in southeast Louisiana currently until we get a syndicated program. We're probably going to have to relocate. But for now, we're in southeast Louisiana. Are we at risk? What's the chances of us running into a murder hornet walking out the door tomorrow?
Tomorrow, we're probably safe. We're pretty good for a while. It took, after the Africanized killer bees escaped, it took them more than 10 years to go from South America to mainland USA, North America. So it'll probably take these guys a little while to get to us. What I saw that I really don't like is they apparently like mountains and forests, which no mountains around here, which is a plus, but they also don't like high elevation.
Oh.
So we're going to be right up their alley.
Another question. You say they're from the Orient, from Asia. Did they fly over here? That seems like quite a trip for those little wings. How did they get here, Leatherhat guy?
No idea. I talked to smarter people, they got no idea yet. People are looking into it. I think we need to look at our import-export laws.
I was about to
Obviously,
ask, could it be like an outbreak or arachnophobia type scenario where this was possibly transported here on a ship? Or do you think it was a knowing thing? Do you think perhaps we were studying these in a science type place or a university and perhaps one of them escaped?
nah, I'm gonna go with simple human stupid on this one. Someone probably didn't spray the bug poison on the crate before they put it in the boat, and here we are.
Final question. Is wasp poison what we need to get? Is that shown to be protective against these murder hornets? Or should we just maybe carry around a baseball bat, tennis racket, something of that nature?
Alright, so while doing my research, I've looked into some of the more popular methods of murder hornet control in Asia. Well, first off, we need special poison. Our run-of-the-mill stuff is not going to do the job on these. And even the good stuff that they got over there is only like fourth on the list. The preferred method for getting rid of these guys, trap them and squish them.
Now, I guess one more thing before we end the murder hornet discussion. You mentioned something earlier about bees swarming these guys, and what's the deal with that again?
Alright, so another reason, or a big reason we need to be worried about the murder hornets. They eat the bees, guys. Our wonderful pollinator friends who are already in tons of trouble, and the scientists still don't know why they're all keeling over. But our bees are already in a population crisis.
Do they eat wasps as well, or is this just honeybees in their diet?
The murder hornets will eat pretty much any bug they can, from what I've seen, although they do prefer honeybees just because of they eat the bees, then they eat the honey. 2 for 1.
Gotcha.
Now, the bees do have an interesting defense when being attacked by these murder hornets. They will swarm the murder hornet, hundreds of these bees, and just enclose the hornet in the center of a bee cocoon, and then frantically beat their wings to raise the temperature at the center of this ball. Hornets don't do with heat well, not as well as the bees do, so they will literally cook the hornet alive when it tries to invade the nest.
So are you suggesting we should all start keeping bees to prevent the murder hornet crisis?
And protect them with flamethrowers, yes.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm glad we know now. Knowing is half of the battle. Now we need tennis rackets, bees, and flamethrowers. Now this malaria microbe you mentioned. What do those things mean?
All right, so negative end of nature with the murder hornets. Let's look at something a little more positive now.
That's what we're all about here.
So, a team of scientists working in Kenya and the UK have discovered a microbe which lives on or in the shores of Lake Victoria in Kenya. Mosquitoes infected with this microbe become immune to malaria. Malaria being one of the biggest killers of people since the beginning of time and records, where we looked into this stuff. It's always been a major thing that the medical community has tried to work with to help provide better protection for humans, particularly those in underdeveloped countries. However, it's very hard to fight because mosquitoes are very hard to kill. In this case, this shows a lot of promise because this is not going to, they don't have to kill the mosquitoes, they don't have to upset some sort of ecological balance, get the mosquitoes infected with this microbe, they can't get malaria, they cannot pass malaria on to people.
Quick question. What delicate ecological balance are we going to upset if we were to mercilessly slaughter all these mosquitoes? What is their purpose in nature? I've never...
As a Louisiana native, I hate mosquitoes and am absolutely in favor of all of them dropping dead. However, unfortunately, mosquitoes do play a bit of a role in the pollination of plants and providing food for other parts of the ecological food chain. The bat... I guess nowadays saying the bats will starve probably isn't a bad thing either.
Ebola. Okay. So yeah, I guess that doesn't affect us so much, and I'm an American, so my first thought is how does it? Okay, but yeah, that's good news. All right, let's give it up to these science guys. Good job. All right. See if there's any other noteworthy news before we jump into sports here. Oh yeah. Apparently, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's biometrics database is now going to be stored on Amazon's cloud storage systems. The fact that there is a Homeland Security biometrics database is a little worrisome to me to start off with.
I'm creeped out by the idea of putting this in the cloud.
Oh yeah, that's
I don't know how this works, but I automatically assume if you put this in the cloud, it's going to look at everything in the cloud, which is everybody's everything who knows technology, as far as I know.
I mean, I'm just now. The cloud is on the internet, correct?
Yes, I think.
We still have internet hackers existing, right?
Last I checked.
And this is, instead of being housed on like a Department of Justice mainframe,
secure server, whatever. Nope, Amazon Cloud.
That just... Again, we're not as smart as people, making these decisions, I'm sure, but that seems boneheaded unless there's some shit we don't know.
I think it's stupid, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, the FBI couldn't crack Apple's security whatever, so maybe they're onto something?
That's true. Well, I mean, that also is a sign of government efficiency,
Yeah.
And your best and brightest usually don't go for government jobs. They're the ones working at Apple.
I think we're just validating this decision now.
You might be right. Let's see. Other news. We now have computer chips being planted in people's brains to undo the effects of paralysis. Story coming through the news. What the fuck do you think about that? One part of me is terrified by the idea. The other hand, and major kudos to anybody who is, paralyzed in some way, but I don't think I would be a horrible paralyzed person. I'd be a fucking miserable person to be around, man. Like, hopefully my mindset would change if I'm in that situation, I'd make the best of it, but imagining it just seems awful. So I think I'd, being in that situation, I think I would jump at the opportunity to have some fucking microchip planted in my head and be able to walk again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a cure for paralysis can't be anything but a good thing. That being said, the implications of this technology and where it could go That's absolutely horrifying. This is how you get cyborgs.
That's right. Cyborgs. The Antichrist. Yeah, all of the possible implications. 1984. I never read that book, but I think it may have some similarities with the subject.
Right author, wrong book.
Whatever. What do you mean? Isn't 1984 the Big Brother one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We're
Move.
not talking about implanted tracking devices now. We're just talking about the implications of blurring the lines between man and machine.
Oh no, it's gonna move on to being fucking tracking device. That's what I'm saying. This is the start, and then it's gonna move. You know, you've got some people that believe that they give us vaccines in order to inject microchips into our bodies.
I don't think the technology's that good yet.
It wouldn't shock me if the technology existed. I had a conversation with someone about this recently. The technology, I'm sure, does exist. Now, my argument is the cost efficiency isn't there when there are so many more cheap ways, like this little sumbitch right here. That's all they need to track you. They don't need to put a microchip in you. But like I said, I think that's going to be what people think about that. But I'll tell you what, if I was in that situation, I'd probably jump at the chance. Donald Trump wants to mine the moon. I'm not sure.
Reiterate my previous point. Don't think the technology's there yet.
Again, well, and my previous point, we don't know what government technology they have cooked up, you know? I mean, some of this high-tech shit we're seeing has been in existence in government use for decades.
True. We've talked about that. You're right, and I've said it myself. If this is the civilian stuff you can get a hold of, what in the name of God does the CIA and FBI have?
What are we going to the moon to mine for?
Minerals? Rocks? I'm sure there's important stuff up there that we can use. I've heard the theories on this. I personally still think mining the asteroid belt is a better idea. It's easier. It's more time consuming. But there's no drilling, there's no excavation. You fly the probe out there, it scans for the rock, the meteorite, that's what we want, and then we tow it back. If we can mine the moon, we can herd asteroids.
Just still not sure what benefit that's going to be or what the rest of the world's going to think about that.
Well, the benefits of that is going to be these vital rare earth metals, minerals, materials, stuff we use in our smartphones, all of our technology that are very hard to come by around here, hence the name rare earth metals, will be available in larger quantities and easier accessible not on the planet. Now that being said, I'm confused. I think you said the president was trying to come up with some new space treaty about this.
There's something in the works, but yeah, I'm not sure what other countries think about us wanting to mine the moon.
Say, because as we talked about, as far as I'm aware, we signed some treaty in the 70s or the 80s declaring space neutral territory, and no particular country was allowed to put a colony or a base or something like that on the moon. So as it stands right now, I think our rules say you can't do that.
Yeah, you know, I'm not really sure. I mean, I think there's some people that would argue we haven't been to the moon the first time, so, you know, it might be unlikely for us to be able to make it there and bring fucking mining equipment. I'm not one of those people, but again, for the right price, I could be. Ruth Bader Ginsburg released from the hospital. Congratulations to her. She's still kicking. Now, what is she in her 70s, late 70s, I believe, maybe even her 80s?
I was gonna say, I think she's older than that.
How much you want to bet she retires if virtually anybody other than President Trump is in the White House right now? I mean, this is I don't even know how many health scares, issues she's had at this point. She seems like I don't know. I mean, she's old. She seems frail. Not wishing anything on her. No, she's a great American.
Whoo! We definitely lowballed. RBG, mad respect, 87.
Wow. Again, she's 7 years older than Tony Fauci, and I would guess decades of difference between them. So props to Dr. Anthony Fauci for being in incredible shape to help us out through this thing. I mean,
Yep.
I'm literally amazed at how old that dude is and the way he looks and the energy he has. I mean,
Say, now knowing her age, oh, absolutely. At this point, I have to assume it's got to be like hate and willpower keeping her going while this is happening.
pretty
As soon
much.
as they get someone else in there, she's gonna be done.
Pretty much.
I would at that point be like, can I just go home and rock? I'm tired of this.
See, we had a failed attempt to overthrow President Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, where we had 2 former U.S. Green Berets captured. Look, men, A+ for your spirit and effort. I'm gonna have to give that a solid F on execution when your fucking motorboat you're in to try and get to the preparations. Like you broke down, like you fucking broke down. You're gonna overthrow the government and you can't get a boat
Who bought the used motor? That's what I'm like. Guys, don't cheap out on your equipment.
Whose job was it, number one, to secure transportation? And who's the brainiac that put the 2 elite combat veterans in the shittiest boat, apparently, that they had in their possession? I mean, that's what I want to know.
Like, the Green Beret. It's ridiculous. Everybody knows you put the SEALs in the boat.
Well, no, I mean, they were all in boats, but the other boats apparently didn't break
That's
the
what I'm
fuck
saying.
down.
They're Green Beret. These are land people. They should have put them in the good boat. You put the Navy guys in the shitty boat. They've been trained for it.
You had 2 Green Berets and a bunch of people that had fled from Venezuela. They had to teach these people how to be soldiers and make sure, like I said,
This plan was doomed from the start.
probably so. But like I said, A+ for the spirit. And I don't know. Hopefully we're going to do something as a government to get them back out of the Venezuelan prisons, but I don't know. I don't know if there's any news on that yet. I think they're all busy with the COVID still. Getting right into sports talk. On Friday, the NBA is going to hold a call with all players. I think they're going to be airing out, discussing any concerns, any issues with the plan that I believe they've laid out to teams as far as the reopening. Eager to see what goes on with that, how the players, because
Stank, real quick question, just to go back earlier in our conversation. Would you say that there are more NBA players total than there are members of the House of Representatives?
First of all, what are you getting at?
Well, you were saying the president is trying to limit these large gatherings of people to ensure our health. Surely he can't just let these poor NBA players all get together like this in such a dangerous, risky time.
If you're talking about potentially in one arena, if we just have NBA bare bones amount of players, coaches, and officials could get away with 35 under 40 people, between benches, court at a time. And the guidelines they were putting out, from what I understand, included a vigorous screening process for all players. Like I said, they're trying to be proactive, but I mean, they're losing a shit ton of money. They want to try and do something, and I'm eager to see what's going to happen. The NFL is also laying out protocols for teams to be able to reopen stadiums. I mean, that's another. They can't even get into these places right now. Once they are, in a lot of places at least, you still have laws forbidding, groups of more than 50. So you can't even get your whole team together, let alone the coaching staff right now. So that will be interesting to follow as well. Other NFL news, Brett Favre has to repay $1.1 million for speaking engagements that went unfulfilled. Do you have any details on that for us, Leatherhat guy?
Just that the supposed charity organization who paid Brett Favre for these apparently non-existent speaking engagements is also being investigated. I'm going to assume for mismanagement of funds.
Oh, well, I like to hope that Brett Favre didn't knowingly do anything immoral, illegal, but I also have to assume he knows that he has speaking engagements he did not go to or fulfill, so...
Unless he didn't know that that's what they called that. Maybe it was just a regular bribe and he didn't know it. They didn't tell him that it...
Maybe, you're right, maybe it's the concussions, the CTEs getting to him, and I mean, you saw what those damn New Orleans Saints did to him that game. They tried to decapitate that poor old man. Damn bounty gate and some bitches.
Dementia.
But yeah,
maybe early onset Alzheimer's. Do we know if Brett Favre gets cold sores?
That's a good question. If you want to Google, I think they did find that he sent a picture of his dick to a reporter while he was a member of the New York Jets. You can do some research on that if you want. No, but I mean, it could be that he didn't fulfill these speaking engagements because the CTE from all of the decades of hits is clouding his mind. So I think somebody should be taken up for poor old Brett there. He's just on his damn tractor and his Wranglers, and I mean, he didn't even know. Right? Shit, I mean, I don't know. I hate to see it. All right, now one last thing before we leave you with today's episode. Apparently we have reasons to fear the Georgia highways, as we're learning that there are upwards of 20,000 Georgia teens that have received their driver's license without a road test. Can you tell us more?
Pretty much just what you said, Stank. Apparently, Georgia's response to issues with COVID and the DMVs can't make you do your test drive like normal under these conditions. So I don't know if they're doing something different or if they've just decided to say screw it and just give them the licenses. But given the information we have, I am certainly not going to Georgia anytime soon.
You got something to say? I mean, they can't get a fucking arcade of like Cruising USA or some shit in there. Like, I mean, there's got to be. I would think, we're living in 2020.
Say they have to. There's got to be a pile of old vintage arcade car game. Put them in.
People are walking around that have transformed themselves into fucking cats. I mean, Bruce Jenner is no longer in existence. You're telling me we don't have a way that we can virtually see if these people can drive a car? Is that...
There's got to be a way. There's a VR version of the Hunter's shooting exam that they do now. They can absolutely do this at the DMV.
Wow.
I'm glad that they're trying to, ensure that these young adults have this ability to move forward in their lives, but man, I remember being a kid getting my license. You gotta test these guys.
My immediate thought is you're supposed to. Well, I guess Georgia's not on lockdown anymore, but you shouldn't be fucking going anywhere. I mean, you don't need to be running into public. I don't care if your state's off a lockdown or not. We've seen none of these numbers are going down right now.
Right, just because the governor said you can doesn't mean you should.
I'm sorry. There's 2 states, I believe, that I saw today that are having low COVID numbers, and that's Arkansas and Wyoming may have been the other one. Wyoming, I kind of get.
There's 6 people in all of Wyoming. Of course they have low numbers.
So I get that one. Arkansas I was a little surprised about.
Hillbillies don't get out much.
I guess. I don't want to lose all of our Arkansas audience there, so, you know.
No disrespect, y'all. I'm white trash myself.
As you can see from the name. But yeah, those are the 2 states that seem to be doing the best right now from a graph that I saw earlier today. And then you have a couple states, including some that have recently reopened for business, that are actually trending upwards. So
who would have thought?
Kind of makes you wonder what's going on here. Anyway, we like to leave you on a positive note, so we want to thank you for tuning into our show. Want to remind you that if you enjoyed the content, or even if you didn't, if you could go ahead and hit the thumbs up there, we'd really appreciate it. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, and we will be back within the next day or 2 to bring you another episode. We'll be here, the same trailer,
same trash.
and we'll see you next time. Stay safe.